Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Esteemed FaceTime with Leaders, an initiative by World Development Corporation. I am Ajuna Sharawat, anchor at World Development Corporation. FaceTime with Leaders is a platform for industry titans to share their experiences, thoughts, ideas, and best practices in order to inspire one another and future leaders. In a nutshell, we attempt to encapsulate the multi-decadal learnings acquired by these industry leaders. We also hope that by conducting these FaceTime with industry leaders interviews, we can bring together a global community of eminent personalities. By bringing together such visionaries on one platform, we hope to play a part in inspiring the lives of other leaders. Great learnings from great leaders undoubtedly assist everyone by identifying, nurturing, and using the trade secrets that are proven success formulae for many. And this is what we trust these sessions are, a gathering of industry stalwarts and a knowledge sharing community. We have one such industry heavyweight in today's session with us, Altaf Merchant. Working for over 2.5 decades, Altaf has been giving his invaluable contributions to the AdTech, media, finance, and healthcare industries with his great skills and prowess in the software domain. In his various roles, Altaf defined the product vision and strategy for B2B software products. Altaf has played key role in entering new markets with a robust go-to-market strategy, amongst numerous other responsibilities. Altaf is the former Senior Vice President, Product Management at RateGain. Welcome, Altaf, to FaceTime with Leaders.
Thank you for having me. Happy to be here.
Our pleasure. Altaf, you have worked across various industries, handling various aspects of business in the software domain. What is it that takes someone to be so cross-skilled?
Thanks, Ajuna. That's a great question, because that really makes me ponder about the last few decades that I've spent in this industry. So, just to talk a little bit about the context, right? I did my engineering at a time where computer science was like really nascent, things were evolving and stuff like that. Just to talk a little bit about statistics, Google was not even founded at that point in time, okay? And Yahoo was just a 2-year-old company. So this was a time where even in my college from where I passed out, internet connection was just there in my head of department's office. That's about it, So that was the time where I entered in this industry as such. So things have really evolved from that point in time, right? Anybody and everybody who graduated or passed out with a computer science degree pretty much got a job, a fantastic job, and a leeway into the industry pretty much quite easily as such, right? And essentially, even talking about myself as a professional, I started my career working as a software developer, right? Did programming in various programming languages, the ones that were like pretty nascent. Microsoft was a big name at that point in time. So some of their technologies were something that I worked on, which was application oriented, database oriented, and a lot of that stuff, right? One of the things that I'm really happy about that over the years of experience that I have acquired, I've been predominantly working for product companies. They are the ones who really build an idea and get ideas into shape through software as such, right? So I've been like pretty fortunate to be able to work on such kind of products as such. And essentially, if you look at my career, right, I have evolved, right, working for companies that have been in the finance domain initially, right? I've worked on payroll and ERP software initially. Then I joined Thomson Reuters, which was pretty much like a research and an investment kind of a provider for a lot of these finance related industries. So a lot of my finance domain really comes from that part as well. Then I worked for another software company who was into the Forex trading space, right? So again, that really bolsters my experience in terms of how I acquired my experiences in the finance domain as such. In 2008, I think that was a pivot point in my career. I joined Yahoo, and that was a time where I joined their advertising and advertising technology group at that point in time, So my initiation into product management and also into the media and the advertising domain really started from Yahoo, and I really thank them for that because I think that was phenomenal. Yahoo was doing some really good stuff in the advertising industry along with Google and bunch of the other providers at that point in time. I worked on some of their key innovative initiatives as well, right, in terms of prediction technology, some of their media exchanges, advertising exchanges, and bunch of other initiatives at that point in time. I was with them for like 5 years, and then I decided to probably move on and try my hands on a startup in the healthcare domain. I think that really gave me some insights and nuances into the healthcare industry, right? I mean, what it really takes to be able to succeed in a very compliance-driven industry as such, right? So I think I got that opportunity at that point in time as well. And also, I mean, I think being an entrepreneur also really shapes a lot of it, brings a lot of character to your personality as such, so I got an opportunity to work directly with the customers, making sure that the product really got validated with the end users and making sure that it got deployed and stuff like that, right? So that was a stint that I had as an entrepreneur, after which I decided to get into the main force as well, which is where I joined MediaOcean. And MediaOcean is actually, I mean, if you read a little bit about themselves, about them as a company, they were perceived as the Googles of AdTech, because it's a 50-year-old company, and they were really so embedded into this advertising and media industry that working from them and the kind of clients that they have and the agencies that they support is phenomenal, right? So when I joined that company, I had the opportunity really to work. I mean, I was the first product person based out of India. I mean, essentially the India office really had engineers and the QA resources and the support people. But having a product person was something that they strategically decided because they had like two goals that they wanted. Obviously to have more product people sitting next to the engineers and making sure that some of these products really get built, so that me and my team members really interface with the folks in the US and other part of the world and make sure that those requirements really get funneled into our engineering team as such. So that was one goal that was really provided to me. And I think more importantly, right, MediaOcean really wanted to get out of US. I mean, not get out, but basically they had saturated and they wanted to expand in other geographies, right? And that's the time when they decided that they wanted to get into the APAC market, and which was great. I mean, that was the most logical step that any corporate would want to take as such. So it was a long journey. I think people, I mean, at MediaOcean, they acquired like about 3 companies just to get into the APAC market, try to get the look and feel of this market as such. And I think that itself made sure that I got involved with some of the media management tools that MediaOcean had and the ones that got acquired by these companies that I'm talking about, right? So those were some of the responsibilities that really did a lot of grounding for myself. Long story short, I think to answer your question very, very directly, the reason, I mean, I actually didn't have a choice, right? I just took up, I started off my career at such point in time where you really didn't have a choice to pick and choose, but you just had to take responsibilities and move on with that, right? So I think it's just the attitude of picking things up and moving is what really made me what I am right now in this industry.
Wonderful. So, which of your job roles you have enjoyed the most? And
Yeah. I think that's a great question, because when you're in the software industry, right, almost every role that you pick up has got a lot of innovation, right? I mean, there's no choice or anything of that sort that entails outside that, right? So one of the things that I believe that I enjoyed the most, and I think it was quite challenging. Okay, it was not a cakewalk, and I'll just describe what it really was. And this really links to the role that I played at MediaOcean as well, was essentially getting into the China market, right? I mean, we were like totally excited, right? What had happened was we acquired a company in China who was in the same industry that MediaOcean was in, but they were like pretty small. But if you know that if you have to do business in China, you really need to get it done through an incorporation as part of that market itself. So we acquired a company. Obviously, it was a small team, but very talented people that it started off with, right? And obviously we started pitching, right? Because what we really wanted as part of this acquisition was really to take our resident products, right? And deploy it in China rather than the product that we acquired from China, so that we just have one platform really running across the industry as such. So what we really did was like our sales team really took it up, and the team in China took it up, and they went about pitching some of these huge advertising agencies in China as such, right? And luckily, with all the efforts that were aligned, we acquired a very big contract with a media agency in China as such, right? And again, we were all excited, new product, new market, all bells and whistles going on, that we've acquired a customer, it's going to give us a good revenue boost and a lot of that stuff. But imagine, I mean, this contract got signed on somewhere in the month of January of 2020. And you know what happened in January 2020? Pandemic hit, COVID was around the corner, total lockdown in China. India went into lockdown in March, and then we were like, we really didn't have many choices, right? I mean, we really didn't want to delay the project as such, but what we really decided was like, let's give it our best shot. Let's come together, deploy the product, train the customers, all of these things remotely, right? I mean, we got onto a lot of conference calls. We had teams supporting from India who was predominantly doing the software development. And also at the same time, we had a huge amount of support from our counterparts in US, UK, Australia, and China as such, right? So I think getting all of these things together really provided us a lot of learning, right? Because at the end of it, you can't really succeed in isolation, right? You really need to work as a team. You have to get people together. And at the same time, you can't travel, because getting into the market, you really need to be face to face with the customer, with the end user. You're training them on the product and a lot of that stuff, right? But none of this really happened, right? I mean, we have to just sit back in fact, we were all working from home, right? And there was absolutely no way in which even our counterparts stay in the same city, we could not really meet, right? But the fact of the matter is we went that extra mile, and made sure that all of that got really orchestrated. We came together. And in fact, I would say that that was the best team bonding activity that we had ever, at least in my stint with the company over there, right? I mean, everybody was so dedicated, honest, and sincere. I think sincerity is the true and the right word that I can really get out of this initiative as such, and we made it happen. And I'll talk about a very pertinent challenge also that we faced, right? I mean, if you're working in China, right, people really don't speak English, right? So the fact of the matter is, like, none of us knew the native language, and we had translators who were helping us out, trying to really make sure that whatever questions that we had were translated, understood by our counterparts over there, and they were the ones who were relaying the requirements and the needs and a lot of that stuff, right? In fact, all our training programs were also in Chinese as such, right? So I think it's a very unique experience. Not many professionals, at least I can vouch for, get this kind of an opportunity to enter a market with such diverse culture as such, and a market that is huge. I mean, there is a lot of potential in the China market as such, but the fact of the matter is, like, you getting that opportunity to be the pivot point for some of the software workflows that we were deploying and making it successful, right? I think I would say that was one of my amazing, challenging experiences that I've had in the past.
Wow, that's really inspiring. So what kind of technological support you used at that time?
So, I think, so one of the things, right? One of the things that happens in China, right, is basically, even if you have your data centers across the globe, right, say in North America or for Singapore or something, the IT rules in China really mandate that you have some of their data centers within China itself, right? So we had to be very mindful of the fact that most of the software that was being used by our customers was really deployed in China itself, in the cloud, in the Amazon Web Services cloud that we had rented. And most of the software had to be over there. We couldn't just say that even if you're using our systems in North America, just connect to that URL and start using those systems over there. So we had to make sure that all the applications were cloud enabled. We didn't want to go to their offices. And besides, that was not part of the software philosophy that the company had at that point in time. And we made sure that all the deployments happened in the cloud in China, in Amazon's data centers at that point in time, right? So I think these were some of the nuances that we had to work against, but beyond that, the platform, the software that MediaOcean really has is a software as a service platform as such, right? Which means that you can access it from pretty much anywhere in the world as such.
So since we are talking about technology,
Sure.
I would like to probe more and ask you, in your 25 long years of career, what are the most significant technological developments you have seen? And how do you foresee the corporate world with the integration of IoT, ML, AI, blockchain, etc.?
I mean, I think this is such a relevant question in today's time of chat GPT, right? I mean, how many of us would have ever imagined the kind of support or the kind of stuff that the software would have been able to do as such? I mean, we've been so pampered by Google search, but now with chat GPT coming, which is really built on a lot of AI as such, I think this question is like totally pertinent, right? But I'll just elaborate a little bit as such, based on my experiences and what I do foresee in the upcoming future as such, right? So I came from the advertising industry, right? And one of the ways in which the online advertising really needs to be successful is having a pool, a lot of data as such, right? So which really means that the future, at least, I mean, it's really not the future for the AdTech industry, but for the other industries as well, is like whenever you have like a huge set or a data lake of information available, you really need to make sure that that data is in a very segmented and in an organized manner, right? Because that's the basis of machine learning. Because what really happens is like once you have an organized data set as such, you really need to draw insights on top of that, right? And that's the time when you have these algorithms and a lot of these stuffs that work on this data set that you have, and then you can have a lot of these AI models on top of it for you to be able to make derive insights and a lot of that stuff, right? And I'll just try to make it a little more easy as well. Is if you're browsing on the internet, right, and you're looking for an ad, I mean, you're looking for a flight ticket, say from Mumbai to Delhi as such, right? So what really happens is that the moment you do your intent, that this is the kind of need that I have, and I want a flight ticket between these two cities on this specific date and this specific time as such. You would have just done a preliminary search as such on Google or any of these travel websites, but what you would have noticed is like that intent of yours starts following you. I mean, even if you go to another website or a web page, that intent, and you start seeing ads which are similar by probably some other providers, which really tell you that okay, this is the flight ticket, these are the rates, it's available at this specific price point and a lot of that stuff, right? And how is all of this possible, right? Because there's a lot of maturity already in the ad technology domain as such, where they're really sensing your intent and your user persona in terms of what you're looking at and what are your personal attributes, demographic attributes, and they are just showing you the right ad, right? So today, even if I am browsing the same website, the ad that I get to see and the ad that my daughter gets to see are totally different, right? Even while we are browsing the same website. So there's so much maturity that has already been built on top of this, where there is a lot of segmentation and a lot of learning on top of the lovely data that's been available, right? And all of the examples that I'm talking about is essentially around machine learning, which has made it possible as such, right? And I do believe that AI is going to be the big thing, right? One thing is like maybe a lot of people haven't noticed it as such, right? But AI has been there for like ages. Okay, it's been the undercurrent. When I was in college, I did programming in some of the AI languages at that point in time, right? So it doesn't mean that this is something new that's happening. The only thing that has happened, which I think a lot of us need to understand, is that the applications of AI have come in the public domain, right? I mean, the fact that people like you and me are using ChatGPT, which really means that Now it is the reality, right? A lot of corporations were using as part of their underlying platforms as such, which is artificial intelligence. But the fact of the matter is, it's become a lot more open at the moment, and people have accepted their use cases, right? They've understood the fact that some of the things that were very mechanical and very resource intensive, human resource intensive, can really get offloaded or done in a more efficient manner. I would rather use the word efficient, because that is what really makes it possible for something as important, something which has got so much potency to be able to solve several use cases across multiple industries. I think that's the biggest thing in the next 5 to 8 years. That's what I'm anticipating, right? And I do believe that even talking about governance, right? I mean, even if you talk about building this use case for corporate governance as such, right? I mean, today there are a lot of checkpoints, a lot of compliances that have been mandated, even if you're running a company from a governance standpoint, right? So a lot of compliances have been in place. So there's a lot of data which is already available. But the fact of the matter is you still need an auditor to be able to derive insights from that data as such, right? But one of the use cases that I do anticipate and perceive that could be possible is essentially to make sure that there are insights that are being derived from that data which is available, right? Which means that if there is some non-compliance happening, you really don't need to have an auditor who has to wake up in the middle of the night to figure out that there's something wrong and he needs to take action. There needs to be these red flags that are going on, and that's only possible through automation, right? That's only possible through these intelligent AI algorithms as such, right? And I do believe that if the industry moves in that sense, and if corporate governance has to really mature as such, there is this huge opportunity, and there is this resident technology which is available, which just needs to get adopted. That's my sense as to how this piece of the puzzle is going to unfold over the next few years.
Talking already about corporate governance, audit, and other related things, I would also like to ask you at this point, when did you develop liking for ESG?
ESG, wow. I think it's been, yeah, I mean, if you look at me as an individual, right, I'm very conscious about a lot of things around me, right? I mean, it's not about just wasting resources or using a lot of plastic and a lot of that stuff, right? But then this was like an undercurrent in my personality as such at some point in time. And the fact of the matter, what really happens is like, this is a reality where you really can't go away from these initiatives anymore. This is not a choice. This is not the time of choice. I mean, if you look at our carbon footprints, right, our energy consumption is just going to go northwards, right? I mean, that at no point in time we are going to be in a position where our energy consumption is going to go down. So we need to figure out ways of clean energy, alternative sources of energy, and a lot of that stuff, right? And I think what's really important is that with so much technological advancements, right? I mean, today we are so judicially using internet, right? But the fact of the matter is that bandwidth that gets supported, or I need to post something on Facebook or Instagram, what I really need to do is that I need to make a query which goes under the seas and hits a server in North America and then gets me that specific query that I have. And that means there's a lot of energy that is getting utilized to support these data centers, which are running 24/7 as such, right? So for all of the luxury that technology has been provided to us, now it's our time to give it back to the planet as well, right? Because if we just continue the way in which we are going, I think it's going to be a tough task for all of us, right? So one of the things that Microsoft, Amazon, and for that matter, even Google are doing in this direction is like they've really experimented of having data centers at the bottom of the ocean, right? How many of us can imagine like a submarine kind of a setup where you have these amazing servers at the bottom of the sea as such, right? So I think there are a lot of these things going on in parallel in a lot of these software industries. I know that by 2013, most of these top software companies are targeting to have like a zero carbon footprint, right? And that's like a humongous goal that they've set. And some of the initiatives that I'm seeing with them are all aligned. It's not that people are just waiting for 2030 to come, but I do see this incremental effort that's been taken by a lot of these people as such. So I'm really bullish about it, and I'm very happy that a lot of these people are taking that action as such, right? Now, I would also feel that, I mean, finance, right? I mean, today, one of the things that I was uh, just casually looking at, right? I mean, given the fact that I just started going deeper into ESG, right? Um, I mean, at least in India, if you look at it, right? I mean, most of the asset management companies also have mutual fund schemes that predominantly invest in companies that are either following one of the ESG mandates or are ESG compliant as such, right? So a youngster like who's really very keen on being very carbon neutral and a lot of that stuff, and knows that my money is going to get invested in companies that are part of ESG compliance, then I would rather put my investment money in that direction and make things move forward, right? So I think that's another thing that's happening in the I mean on the ESG front as well, right? And I think a very interesting thing, on a tangent note, right? So I'm aware of this family who are so I mean youngsters, kids, everybody part of the family, and what they did at a personal front was like they came up with their yearly carbon footprint, and they made sure they calculated that, and they made sure that the corresponding number of trees were planted from their side. So I'm really very proud that people are looking at things in that front, right, where they're planting trees, but doing a checks and balance. Okay, if I have an air conditioner running in my house, or if I'm driving those many kilometers, I'll make sure that my carbon footprint as a family becomes zero by planting these trees in parallel as such, right? And I think that's phenomenal as such. And I think one more very interesting statistics, right? So I was going through some data, say about a week back. I think it was in the newspapers as well. So the UK government, right, they've lost like 17 billion pounds in terms of tax collection from industries which are supporting tobacco or alcohol as such, right? And that was directly attributed to the Gen Z crowd, who said that no, okay, we are going to stay away from tobacco, we're going to stay away from alcohol, and that really meant that they were not consuming those products, and that really meant that those companies were going southbound. But the fact of the matter is the UK government had to also take the hit, because they were really not getting that kind of a taxes from these kinds of industry, which is actually very good to know that people are becoming more conscious, and there is this joint effort that's been taken right from the citizens to the government, through the NGOs, and through the corporates, right? Everything's just coming together, and that really feels very encouraging about it to me.
Absolutely. Very, very inspiring incidents and stories and great lessons to learn from. At this point, I would also like to ask you, did at any point of your professional journey, you feel that you can expand your purview as a professional and apply your skills beyond your immediate scope of application?
Yeah, I mean, if I have to just ponder a little bit, right? One of the things that I've noticed, right, which is really not work related, right? I can think of two examples, right? One being that the family in which I grew up, right? There is a huge family, and the community in which I grew up. It has a lot of emphasis on volunteerism, right? I mean, there are these initiatives that you can participate, and a lot of that stuff. And I've been like pretty fortunate to be part of several such boards at a voluntary level, where it was around economic development, education for kids, women empowerment, or providing easy credit to small and medium businesses, right? So I think I was very fortunate to get involved as a volunteer on some of these platforms that were provided very nicely through some of the community initiatives as such, right? And a few things which I believe that I learned through being part of these initiatives was really the fact that you don't have much authority, right? I mean, you learn to lead without authority. you learn to negotiate, you learn to mediate, you learn to work as a team, and more importantly, forget about all that I've said, right? You really get to experience empathy as such, right? I mean, I've got examples where I've got to know that there are individuals who earn like 13,000 rupees or 14 or 15,000 rupees a month. And for most of us, we won't even wink our eye to spend 15,000 rupees on a small item that we want to buy, right? And the fact of the matter is that is the reality. So one thing is you really feel grateful for whatever you have, but the fact of the matter is like you tend to extend your empathy what the other person is experiencing, and you get a lot of motivation, when you are able to feel empathy for somebody else. And I believe I've learned a lot about empathy by working and being a volunteer, and that has been directly attributed to my corporate years in the corporate industry as such. Right? So I think that's something that I can really say that outside my work, this is something that has kept me grounded, and this is something that I've been able to given back to the corporate world as such, right? And I think the second example that I was talking about was I have a hobby, right? I mean, I think most of us stay grounded only when we have a good hobby as such, right? And I'm like very fortunate to be able to pursue this passion for trekking and going in the mountains, walking in the forest, and a lot of that stuff, right? And a lot of that thing really teaches you is a lot of resilience, right? And more often than not, when we face challenges in life, in our work-life environment, I think resilience and persistence is something that really you tend to learn. And this is something that I believe also can be applied directly into the corporate world as such, right? So these are some of the examples which are outside the work, the day-to-day work, but the fact of the matter is that those learnings have direct relation in the corporate world.
Sure enough. And now, since you are a corporate governance expert, could you just let us know what perspectives you offer the corporate world?
Great. So I think there are two aspects to the corporate world, right? And I think there needs to be a little bit of a culture change in which we are going after profitability as such, right? And this has been playing with me for a long time on my mind, and the reason why I'm saying what I'm saying is essentially, apart from your profitability metrics that you disclose, right? I think this is the time that we need to start thinking a little bit on how some of the ESG ratings are also getting bubbled up, right? Because at the end of it, if I'm an investor or if I'm standing for some of these initiatives for good corporate governance, the metrics that we were tracking for ESG were really not getting bubbled up as much, right? I mean, at the board level, yes. At an investor level, yes. All of these really need to get escalated and bubbled up so that people are aware that this company is really not into profitability, but at the same time, they're looking at their business, which is really plugged into as a much larger social impact that they're trying to make, right? I mean, money profitability is definitely something which is important, but the fact of the matter is these are the initiatives that this company is really looking in parallel as well, right? So I think that's very crucial. I think that sort of a mindset change really needs to happen. Now, number two, according to me, is also the fact that because technology is really close to my heart, right? And the fact that we talked a little bit about AI, ML, right? I think for good corporate governance to really happen, some of the technological advancements really need to get adopted. That's what I believe, that corporate leaders would need to be more pragmatic and make a more informed decision as to how they're going to invest in some of these technologies as such, right? Because without which it just becomes like a lip service, that we are doing good governance. Because today we have technology available, right? It's just a marriage that really needs to happen, and that would require some resources, change of priorities. But the fact of the matter is, like, this corporate world is going to be a much more mature and a better place to live if we do those kinds of investment over the next 5 to 10 years. That's my anticipation and hope.
And as you're aware, we are building a community of FaceTime with leaders. It is aimed at cross-pollination of knowledge, something that will lead to a robust corporate governance in the country and build a community of non-executive directors for its robust framework, we would like to know what are your thoughts about these initiatives taken by Zishan, Havel, and the whole World Development Corporation team.
I think Zishan and Havel are champions, right? I mean, let me start off with that, right? The fact of the matter is, this is something that you can't live without, right? I mean, we need to have pollination of minds coming together, right? At the end of it, right? Because you just can't be an expert in one industry, right? But your ability to work parallelly with other industry leaders and making sure that your subject matter expertise really get pulled in a right forum is I believe that is the need of the hour, right? I mean, if I'm just a expert in the software industry, but if I'm like unaware or uninitiated as to what's going on in some other industry or in corporate governance or the governments or the NGO space, then it's just doing some sort of an injustice to my experience and what's the need of our over there, because some things that come to me naturally wouldn't really be possible for somebody just sitting there who doesn't probably have access to the kind of exposure that I have, right? So I think that's great. The other thing that has happened as part of this initiative is basically that they've got pretty much everything under one umbrella, right? Today, I could get a certification done from somebody else, but then at the other end, I might probably not have the right content in place, right? And at the other end, I might not have a network of like-minded professionals, right? And at the other spectrum is also about making sure where the opportunity lies, right? So what these guys have really done, and I kudos to all you people, all you team members, that you've got everything under one basket as such, which is something which can be very easily assimilated and stuff like that, right? And second of all, I would also think that community that is getting built, right? Because at the end of it, right, the most valuable thing that is coming out of this initiative, I mean, given the fact that I've worked on a lot of other initiatives in the social space and a lot of that space, it's the quality of professionals, the database, right? I mean, at the end of it, it's this common mindset which is available, which is so potent, is something, the community which is getting seeded and built. I think this is the biggest asset that Zishan and Abel have created.
Thank you for your positive and inspiring feedback. And I must say that was a very valuable and enriching conversation with you. I'm confident that your insights will inspire the future leaders. Thank you, Altaf, for joining us today. Wish you the very best for your future endeavors.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Moreover, trust that this initiative by Directors Institute unquestionably expanded the participants' understanding and enriched their minds.